This week, all 564 of New Jersey's municipalities faced a deadline to comply with the state's affordable housing law. That means they had to adopt ordinances for how they'll build their share of affordable units over the next decade. It's been a complicated and controversial journey to get here, and several towns are still not on board, even as housing advocates say the state needs more than 200,000 new units to help address the affordability crisis in New Jersey. Joining me now is Jag Davies, the communications director with the Fair Share Housing Center. Jag, great to have you with us. Just really quickly, help folks understand what the Fair Share Housing Center is and how it was created in 1975.
Yeah, New Jersey's affordable housing law is based on a series of Supreme Court decisions in New Jersey known as the Mount Laurel Doctrine. The Mount Laurel Doctrine says that every municipality in the state has to allow for its fair share of affordable homes. Fair Share Housing Center was founded in 1975, the year of the first Mount Laurel ruling, by the lawyers and community activists who brought that case. New Jersey is historically one of the most racially and economically segregated states in the country. The Mount Laurel Doctrine has played an important historical role in putting a dent in that and integrating New Jersey.
So there have been several rounds of, I would say we're in round 4, right, of this, these towns and municipalities needing to declare how and how many units they'll build. We're in this 4th round. Can you just tell us what this deadline this week required for those municipalities?
Yeah, this week was really a historic milestone. This was the final date in the process for the 4th round, by which point every municipality had to submit their final fair share housing plans, explaining and detailing how they're going to allow their fair share of affordable homes. Historically, the Mount Laurel Doctrine has not always been enforced adequately, and some towns have tried to skate around their affordable housing requirements. In 2024, a new law was passed that really strengthened for the Mount Laurel Doctrine and for the first time really gave it real teeth. And it made the process a lot more streamlined and a lot easier for towns to participate. And as a result, we've seen historic progress. Over 400 of the state's towns have now adopted their final implementing ordinances to allow their fair share of affordable homes. The vast majority in the state, and far more towns than ever before that have participating in the process. I think it really shows how the politics of affordable housing and housing more broadly are changing. It's got so bad now that housing costs have gone up so much faster than people's incomes, and even people with several full-time jobs and households with several working parents aren't able to afford a decent place to live.
Let me jump in there. Let me jump in there, Jag, because you say that the law made it easier for municipalities to comply with the law. Many, and this crosses the political divide, Democrats and Republican mayors alike say that the law puts requirements on them that they simply can't meet. They say they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the water, the schools, the space, they have to give up green space in order to build. Some have even taken legal action against the law. Did not work, but just help us understand how and when you decide to kind of critically look at some of these municipalities that say they can't meet their fair share, they can't, comply with the next round. When do you take legal action? When do you step in?
There's only about 20 towns left at this point that we haven't reached settlement agreements with and that are not moving forward with creating affordable housing under the law. For those towns, those cases will be heard by a judge in the summer. The reason why so many towns are complying with the law and participating is because they have wide latitude to create affordable housing in the way that works best for their towns. No one is coming in and saying, you have to put this exact type of housing in this exact place. Towns have a lot of latitude in the process. They can create 100% affordable housing. They can create mixed income housing that also includes a substantial amount of market rate housing. They can create supportive housing for seniors and people with disabilities.
Some are repurposing old space, right? Just talk about some of the, I guess, more creative ways that municipalities are addressing this.
Yeah, a lot of the affordable housing projects under the fourth round are redevelopment projects, not paving over green space, but utilizing underused properties, abandoned malls, empty offices. And that really has a lot of benefits because, from an infrastructure perspective, you already have roads, you already have electric and sewer and infrastructure there. All over the state, there's towns who are revitalizing underutilized areas that are central in their town, near transit, but that have been essentially underused.
Jag, let me ask you this.
Creating new, vibrant, mixed-income communities.
We've been following the case where about 24 towns tried, like I said, to fight this in the courts. They were hoping that it went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Justice Samuel Alito, who is a New Jersey native, they were hoping that he would hear the case. What happened there just recently?
That case, that lawsuit has failed at every level of the process. It was rejected at multiple levels of the state courts. And then this small group of 20 towns went to the Supreme Court and asked them to pause the implementation of New Jersey's affordable housing law. And Justice Alito declined that and said that that means that the law has to move forward and that towns need to meet the deadlines this month to meet their affordable housing requirements.
Just very quickly, quickly, some say, look, this is a burden on small communities. There are many small communities in New Jersey, and why not look to the big cities where there's better infrastructure, transportation, more access to jobs? The law has not agreed with that thinking, though. Why not?
Well, actually, under the affordable housing law, each town has an individualized requirement where towns near transit with more space in more urban areas have much higher requirements, and towns in more rural or suburban areas have much lower requirements. But everywhere in the state is facing an affordability crisis. And New Jersey, as I mentioned, is a very historically segregated state. And so it's really essential for communities across the state to create more inclusive communities. And the reason most towns are participating in the process is because they realize that it's good for their local economies. It helps support small businesses. It brings in new property tax revenue. So there's a lot of benefits to even the smaller towns in creating new affordable housing. And of course, there's transformative benefits for residents who are able to access housing in high opportunity communities. We can't just segregate affordable housing only in urban areas. That's not a solution to the housing crisis.
We have to leave it there, but I thank you for your time today. Jag Davies, Communications Director with the Fair Share Housing Center. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.